before we get started, as usual, we'll have Bruna do an educational presentation for us. Then we'll have some announcements and updates, and then we'll go into detailed project and manuscript updates for the whole group. So without further ado, happy to present Bruna to us today, who will be sharing on a topic which is one of these things that maybe a lot of you have heard, Delphi approach or modified Delphi, but a lot of us hear it without really even having an idea of what it is. So I'm glad that she'll elucidate that for the group. So without further ado, whenever you're ready, Bruna, you can take it away.
Okay, I'm not sure that I am ready, but I'm ready, but okay, no problem. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Bruna Gattiboni. How you know, I am a Brazilian medical doctor, and I have been working with Gemini for around about 2 years now. And today I prepared this brief lecture to share with you what I've been learning in Gemini and work with. And I hope you enjoy. And also, like you know, English is not my first language. And if you don't understand me, please, I would like to reassure you that it's pretty normal. Sometimes I don't understand myself, and you can ask anything in any moment. No worries. Okay. Today I will give you to all an introduction to the modified Delphi approach. Oh, okay. And we will talking about the consensus group technique. I will explain a little about what is the main difference from the classic and modified Delphi, and how we have been used the modified Delphi in Gemini, and conclude this lecture. Well, in the consensus group technique, our main goal is a group uh, a simple of experts in some topic, and our outcome is reach a consensus and agreement and among these specialists about this topic. But the thing here is the consensus is our main theme, but the Delphi nominal group are the consensus research method to reach this consensus among these specialists. Well, we have different methods like a Delphi nominal group technique, the run appropriateness method, and the more informal forms is the consensus meeting. But the most method used in research now is Delphi and nominal group. The main difference from this both method is Delphi need to be anonymized, and is you have this you give different surveys for the specialists, and they have interaction over multiple rounds and voting and reach the consensus. But in each of these rounds, you need to have a feedback from these answers. And nominal group technique is a face-to-face technique. Then they beginning this argue with a solo idea generation and a round robin feedback of ideas. And after this, they need to clarify and discuss every single idea and voting and to prioritize or ranking these ideas. The difference here is that in a nominal group, sometimes you spend like 2 hours for only one question. And this is so much time and is so hard. You uh, could put all these specialists in a room together and talking with some topics today. For this, Delphi is much um easier to use in these days. Well, the consensus group technique we can use in different approach, in different studies like clinical practice guidelines and diagnostic guidelines and disease classifications, establishing research prioritize and developing core outcome sets and um, formulating policies and reporting guidelines. Well, and in each of these, you will need to know how of this method and you will use. This will depend who are your specialist, what is your question, what is your outcome in with this agreement. And but um, when we talking about the consents, we can ask ourselves why we use the expert consents or expert opinion if we have systematic review or others evidence to use in this for reach this answer. But the thing is, how as we can see in this image, and we for we have evidence-based medicine, we need different different things like the best available evidence, the patient's preference and expectations, clinician expertise. And but now we they bring to us in this paper and that and trying to conceptualizing, I don't know, sorry, conceptualizing the evidence pyramid for the clinical practice. They put the clinical expertise like something that can summarize all this evidence and in a good form to give the best management for our patients. And for this, you could see how powerful could be the consensus group technique if we use like a tool to summarize this evidence in the research. Okay, and what is Delphi method? In ancient Greece, when the kings or the generals don't know about the lives uh, they approach in the war, they go to the oracle Delphi and ask questions and trying to have advice how to um, mm, make the best in their lives and their lives. Okay, and after this, like 2,000 years after um, the ancient Greece, during the Cold War, the United States Army Air Corps also faced a military uncertainties and consult the think tank, the RAND Corporation. The RAND Corporation developed the Delphi technique. They recruit several military experts asking each expert about the probability, the frequency, and intensity of potential Soviet attack, and then ask each expert to provide anonymous feedback. and a process that is repeated until consensus is reached. After they use this this army scenario, we take this technique and use for the medicine. And when we have some doubts about how proceed in and some guidelines and how give the best management for our patients. And right now we use in different research and for building a better management for the clinical practice. In the Delphi method, we have four key features that need to be normally anonymized, have need to have interaction of this specialist in each of these rounds, and need to have a controlled feedback. It's not only about the specialist answer the survey, but they need to have this feedback. And after this feedback, they can uh, think about what they answer and how this their colleagues answered about, and make they think about this process. And the last, the statistical aggregation of group response. These are the four features in Delphi approach. And today we have different methods like a classic Delphi, modified Delphi, polished Delphi, and e-Delphi. The classic Delphi is have these four features, but also need to be in presentially. And this is not so easy today. And modified Delphi, we can modify how with different techniques, like we can mix Delphi technique with the nominal group or others like the run method. Then they use the systematic review to build the first survey. In the Polish Delphi is when is used when you don't necessarily need to reach a consensus among the specialists, but your goal is collect this data from these specialists, and after this you can this could be the first step for others research. And the eDelph is called eDelph, the classic Delph, but made by internet. And today, almost all the Delphis are in by internet, and is we don't use so much this topic. Well, and but how to do the method, the Delph method? First, with the literature review or background knowledge, you will identify a problem, and then you will see and trying to define and which is your who is your expert in this area, and trying to recruit these experts. And with your when you identify this problem, you will building a survey with different questions that you have about this topic, and ask for the specialist to answer this in this first round. It's common to begin with open questions to try to that the specialist to refine these questions. And after this, you will give for all the specialists the feedback. And all the questions that don't have consensus will be in a second round. And after you have a consensus in all these topics, you will summarize in a statistical uh, statement. But and how you could see until now is so heterogeneous the how you could do a consensus group technique. You can use different method. You can modify this method, and it's really hard. Then how you will build your method for. And for this, they in 2024 they built this guidance and call it Accord. Then they help us how to um, report this research in the literature, but also they help us to build our project and make like a track to follow and for a um better method. And what is the challenge in this so heterogeneous uh, method? Well, the first one is define what is expert. Some research they use the the diploma of the specialist. Some research use the time of expert experience, and but we don't have a consensus that what is an expert. It's really hard to know, and this could change in each topic. And how much expert you need to for your research. This is other a hard mm, thing to do, hard topic because and if you will do a Delphi method, you need so much experts because the dropout rate is so high in among the rounds, and you need to have uh, a number of experts enough to in the finish of your rounds you have these specialists to answer your surveys. But if you would like to do a nominal technique, they recommend you have an only 7 expert specialists because you will need to discuss every single of these questions, and sometimes you spend 2 hours in some and only one question. If you have so much experts in this technique, maybe you will lose time and sometimes you don't reach a consensus. Well, and other thing is the subsequent surveys and dropout rate. For this, we're trying to use the snowball. Well, the snowball is also used to trying to um, select the experts, but also for trying to reduce the dropout rate. And because if you could have so much, you can have much experts in contact with you. Uh, the consensus definite. This is other problem because some research they use 75% of consensus, but others they trying to reach the consent unanimous consensus. But this is so difficult to do because sometimes when you need to have much rounds and they so much rounds and so much surveys, the specialists agree not because they uh, reach a consensus, but because they are tired to answer these surveys. And this is really difficult, but we can stabilize this percents of consents, and this could help you in the research. Well, and how we have been used the modified Delphi in Gemini. We have this first project was artist thesis. Is amazing project. Then trying to build a list of pediatric emergency care sensitive condition. This project was inspired in this article from Bashi, and but our key challenge here was the high dropout rate among the specialists. And this, what's happened is we have so much dropout that we in the second round we don't have data enough to build our list, and for this we don't ha didn't have data enough to make our manuscript. And now we've also inspired in the Vashi article and all the knowledge that we have from the artist thesis, we trying to use the modified Delphi approach to determine the climate emergency care sensitive condition. In this, we're trying to build this list, and for trying to I I don't know the exactly word for this, but don't have the same issues with um, made a little modified in our Delphi method. Well, we have two group of specialists. We have the steering committee that this group is building with our Duke experts, and is a group of five specialists, and we have our finalists. The finalist is a group of specialists that they will answer our survey. But like we know, our topic about the climate emergency care sensitive condition have didn't have so much literature for help us building this list. And we use the knowledge from our steering committee together with the Veshi article to build this first list and give this list for our finalist answer. And among the rounds, our steering committee will discuss each of these rounds and help us to give this feedback for the finalists. And in this form, we're trying to reduce the numbers of the rounds that we need to and arrive in a consensus. And we hope that this help us to don't have so much dropout rate. And also, other thing that we need for this kind of method is we need to know every single steps, because if you are prepared for all the steps, you can reduce the time that you will spend in the rounds, and this could help you to have less dropout rate. Well, how we can see the Delphi technique is useful in answering several critical problems with the different health professions. It is ideal is sorry. It is ideal for addressing emerging and unknown topics and forecasting issues of importance in medicine, nursing, and others. As a form of expert opinion consensus technique, it has the potential of being one of the first peer-reviewed publication in a new field, subsequently influencing a large body of literature. Delphis are often cost-effective and able to garden experts from geographically different areas. Well, this is some of the articles that I used to build this brief lecture. And thank you so much. If you have any question, please, or some advice, also, I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bruna.
Thanks.
Thanks. And for those who joined us a little bit later, we owe a special thanks to Bruna, who presented a little bit earlier than she was expected to, because we needed to get somebody to talk today. So thanks again. Again, as she said, any questions, comments, feel free to share. If anybody would like to share from their own experience participating in one of these consensus building techniques, it'd be great to hear. Welcome.
Hey Bruna, it's Charla. Great talk. Thank you for sharing. I have a question. I often struggle with like how many experts you need, or like kind of how to decide that. And sorry if you went over that, it was a little glitchy at times on our end here, but like to make it sufficient, I often wonder if I'm doing like a Delphi approach that's too small and if it really meets consensus. So I would love your thoughts.
Thank you so much. And is a really challenge, because in the literature in Delphi approach they say that you need for the consents from 8 to 23 specialists in the minimum, but also they report that from the first round to the second round you could have 19% of dropout rate. And if you only have in the first round 23 specialists, maybe you could have the 8 specialists necessary to have the consents. For this, you need to try and for the finalists, you will need to trying to recruit high number of specialists, and every time thinking about this huge number then drop out than 19%. And for this we can modify the Delphi and use the nominee group technique, then how we use. Then they need only until 7 specialists, and you can mix this knowledge and this data. And in this case, you can, if you have your steering committee together with your finalist, you can reach the consensus in the statistic analysis. This is really helpful.
Thanks, Bruna. That's a good question,
Thank you.
Charlotte. It kind of goes to another point, which I'm curious about, and I would love to hear from you or from others who have worked with this kind of consensus building things about recruitment and retention, because Bruna has mentioned the retention rate can be a challenge. These people that we're trying to recruit, if they're experts or specialists in their field, I would imagine they're not people with a lot of time on their hands, right? They're very busy and hard to schedule, hard to make the time for something, especially if it's kind of seen as a volunteer basis or a contribution to something, to the science, but that they're not receiving maybe much in return directly. So I wonder if folks can talk about, I don't know, the challenges seem obvious, but you can feel free to share if there's something that's less obvious regarding the challenges, but any potential solutions or good practices for recruitment and retention, because that seems very difficult for this kind of population.
I can say something?
Sure, you can say, and then if anybody else wants to chime in, feel free to add.
Yes, please. If somebody have something to share with us, is really, I really appreciate. But we right now trying to um mm, for this we're trying to do in our nominee group everything in online way, and for reduce the time then our specialists need to uh, spend in the survey. And in this nominal group, they can is not anonymous, and you put together in some platform, and they can see the answer from each of the specialists and discuss this. And right now, how we do this is a little better than the literature report. But also we have other issues that is the time the time answer of the emails, because each person will answer in different time, and the timeline is a little confused for this. And in some countries, they spend more time to answer than others, and then this can have a challenge for you make a round, because you need all the answers in this round, and you need to wait.
Yeah. That sounds challenging. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Bruna. Great presentation, and it is challenging, especially if you need to have the same group at multiple time points. I've seen some people allowing for, experts to be there maybe in session 1, and then they're not there in session 2, but they rejoin in session 3. And I've seen sometimes that they allow for other experts to almost fill in. As long as you're transparent about it, I guess, you have to make compromises at some point, especially if you have a tight timeline and resource constraints. Another thing that I've seen work well is if you can combine it with, let's say, a conference where the experts in the field, convene at that conference, and then try and have at least the first meeting or at least the last meeting all together in a room where people are already there, so that it allows a little bit for that. You have something to work towards too, right? So if you say, okay, we're all going to meet in 6 months at that conference, until then, this is what we need to do to prepare. That gives a little bit of motivation, a little bit more buy-in to say, okay, I'll fill in the surveys or something, right? Or use that as a starting point and say, hey, now that we all talked in person, it's a little bit easier for to kind of engage and have that buy-in for people to say, I want to actually keep moving this forward because this is really important, right? So I think if there is a way to have some sort of like in-person or kind of live interaction, can be helpful, especially if it's somewhere where people already are.
Great points. Thanks, Anna. Any other questions or comments?
And then we didn't even talk about potential language barriers. So,
Yeah.
Yes, this
Yep.
is also one challenge, and I really I don't know how I say sugerir, but I said then we can translate the survey for, because we will send this survey for different countries, and we can today is easy
Yeah.
to translate, and maybe this could help the specialists, because if you are a specialist in some topic, not necessarily you know a good English to answer everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but maybe for the next project.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like you said, nowadays the tools for language translation, even in live meetings, are better than they were even 5 years ago. So it does open a lot more opportunities, but it still remains a challenge, to Anna's point. Okay, well, please everybody join me in thanking Bruna once again for the presentation and educating us on this important thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and your patience with